Well, the world's youngest country has struggled with violence since it gained independence in July 2011. In December 2013, President Salva Kiir sacked Machar, accusing him of attempting a coup which led to fighting between rival forces. An internationally backed peace accord was eventually signed between the two in August 2015, and Machar was reinstated as vice president in April. But the situation deteriorated after Machar was sacked again in July and fighting broke out in Juba, killing 300 people. Last week, the UN Security Council voted to deploy extra peacekeepers in Juba, but Kiir's government rejected that decision. Machar says he won't return to Juba unless the peacekeeping force is in place. Well, joining me for more on this is Fidelis and Mbah, who joins me in the studio now. Fidelis, I mean, we've seen the timeline of events there. Just remind us exactly how complicated this is and how we got to this point.
Well, it's a bit complicated, and it gets more complicated every day, because since 2 years ago when Machar was sacked and he had to flee to Ethiopia, and then the peace agreement signed, and he coming back to take his position, because in the first instance, what actually happened was that he felt, that he wasn't getting what he was due as part of the agreement to form government with President Salva Kiir, which was why he protested. And when he was sacked, he ran away, and then his fighters now decided to attack Juba, which led to the displacement of millions and killing of thousands of people. And so far, even with his coming back to take his position as vice president, didn't really more like calm tensions 100%, because some of his fighters were co-opted into government. But after a while, they felt that they weren't getting either the funding they needed to be able to execute, the ministries they were assigned. And then also, Machar felt that he wasn't getting the recognition as the vice president in terms of his input. And after he left, with the outbreak of fighting, and he had to leave Juba, his ministers, who were also part of the government, as part of the overall peace agreement, were also sacked. And one of his commanders, Taban Dengai, now made the vice president. So right now, things are getting complicated, even though Taban Dengai has accepted to step down as the vice president so that Riek Machar can come back to his position. But Riek Machar is saying there were conditions set out, and if those conditions are not fulfilled, I'm not coming back to Juba.
So what impact is this likely to have on the people of South Sudan and the politics of South Sudan? What's likely to happen next?
Well, Riek Machar leaving South Sudan now is more like, in quotes, more like trying to declare a war, because he had already, he granted an interview recently saying that his people were being attacked, and he would not fold his arms while his soldiers are being bombarded and all that. So that he was actually getting ready for war. So right now, with what's happened and him leaving, his fighters are definitely more like his fighters are going to regroup. And then it's not impossible that they might actually want to launch another attack on Juba, which has, enjoyed a relative peace in recent days.
So what can the international community do? Can they do anything to try and stop this escalating?
Well, the United Nations has proposed sending more troops, because the UN troops on ground in South Sudan, their mandate is just observatory. They can't use force. And which is why, their UN compounds were attacked, people were raped, hotel housing tourists was attacked, and people killed, and they couldn't really do anything because their mandate does not, allow them to engage in any form of combat. So now the UN might actually more like want to be forced, because Riek Machar leaving now leaves them with the option that, look, things are really terrible. We really have to act fast now. And then the African Union, which has also passed a resolution to send troops to South Sudan, might now be forced to send this without going through so many logistics in terms of deployment of more troops.
Okay, Fidelis, thank you very much.